Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to this eTwinning online seminar on making historical thinking explicit to students using online tools. Today we have two speakers with us from EUROCLIO to talk about and demonstrating how educators can create their own e-learning activities with historical sources from the Europeana Collections. So here you'll have some instructions for the participants, so you can raise a hand, disagree or agree. So this is how you can communicate with us and the speakers. Unfortunately, we're not able to give you the microphone to ask the questions, so what I would advise is that you would type them into the chat box, and we will then answer them during the seminar and after the seminar. So if you have any questions, just put them into the chat box and we'll answer them. If you have any problems with the sound, we always recommend use the headsets for the better sound quality. And if it still doesn't work, just exit the room and come back again. And I would like to introduce to you our experts. So we have Steven Stegers from EUROCLIO. He's the program director, and he will be speaking about EUROCLIO and the online tools. And then we also have Helen Snelson, who is a curriculum area leader for the secondary history PGCE course at York University and the leader of the Historiana historical content team at EUROCLIO. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce have Stephen and Helen to start their presentation as well.
I was actually just saying, welcome also on behalf of EUROCLIO, the European Association of History Educators, to this first online seminar that we have together with eTwinning and Europeana. So it was clearly the first one. I still have to get used to the system, but thanks for bearing with me. And what I will do is I'll give you a quick run through of web application that we've developed together with our community. So it's a web application made with and for history educators. So that's also why the topic of this seminar is to promote historical thinking through the use of online tools. Everything is available for free, and I will just do a quick run through of how you can register an account. And I will do that by sharing my screen. Let me see how I can do that again. So that's full screen. Stop sharing. Share my screen. Yes. Let me see if you know now no, I have the wrong, this screen I want to share. Yes. So basically what you can do is if you go to historiana.eu, you can do it live if you're happy to test things. If you have perhaps two screens, you can also do it afterwards. If you basically go to historiana.eu, there's a login or register button, and if you click that, you get you can see that you have two options. If you are a returning visitor and you already have an account, then you can just log in. If you forgot it, you can reset your passport. But since most of you will be new, I think you can click on please register here. So, and you need it so that when you create your activities that you can also find them back. So it should be pretty straightforward. You can just type in your email address. So I already registered my normal address, so I will do a new one, and then you type in a password. So you have to make sure that they match, and if they do match, then you can click register. So you can also see actually the PowerPoint that is uploaded in the online learning environment with Adobe Connect. There you can also follow all these steps. So I would just, for some people who didn't know, okay, how did we get there? Basically, you click login or register, then you choose please register here, and then you put your email address and the password. So it's very important that twice you have the same password. So it's, by the way, it's best to use it with Google Chrome. Then you have the best users experience. Of course, in the long run, we want it to be functional on all the browsers and also on iPads and tablets. But at the moment, we start, okay, let's start with one system, and Google Chrome is the one that works best. So here in the historical content section, you can find several source collections. So if you click here on, you have the key moments, the units, the source collections. I'm choosing the source collections because, well, in order to create online learning activities with that promote historical thinking, of course, you need historical sources. So, and then you can search for sources such as the one on royalty. And if you click on that, you can actually add the sources. So these sources are all coming from Europeana, which is the digital library, archive, museum of Europe. And we work together with them to make cultural heritage accessible. So it's also possible to search directly their sources, but now I'm keen to go as soon as possible to the interactive session where Helen will show how to use these to create your own online learning activities. So after you've added these sources, you can see that within Historiana, you have your own section. There you can have, if you make and create learning activities, you will have them here. And here under my sources, you can see that the sources that I've just added, they are now yours. So you can edit them if you want. So you can change some of the information. You can also make a copy, so you can work with those. If people have more questions, I think I will take some questions at the end. But I think now I would like to go to Helen to have the most exciting part of this presentation, which is actually how to use the e-activity builder to create your own tools, to create your own online learning activities. So Helen, perhaps if you could take over the screen, then the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will just do the request control and switch screen. I think that's great. Excuse us a moment while we just switch from a screen in The Hague to a screen in York. Okay. Hopefully what you can see there is my screen. So I set up an account earlier with eTwinning as a username because I thought that was quite appropriate for today. And when you set up your own area, then this is what it will look like as you go in. Now hopefully you can see my mouse at this point, and so you can see that across the top we've got the same things that Stephen was showing you before. historical content, lovely teaching and learning areas, search sources specifically from partners, and I'm going to jump over the exciting one for a moment and just go to my Historiana. So this is your own area when you've created your space. And as you can see at the moment, there's nothing much in this particular area of mine, although if I click on my sources, I did load up some sources ready for demonstrating some things for you today. I'm now going to go into the eActivity Builder. Remember that you will have all of this recorded, so nobody is going to test you at the end of this session. If you want to go back at any point in time, then you will be able to just go back on the recording and check into anything you want. Now, the thing I have to say is that I have managed to make it so I can see the chat box and keep an eye on that at the same time as well. At the moment I'm looking at my screen. But what I propose doing is fairly steadily demonstrating for you how to make some activities using various different parts of the tool. And hopefully by process of me showing you and you watching and then doing it several different ways, you'll get the idea. And then the best thing to do is to log on and have an experiment yourself. But here I am in my eActivity Builder. And I've decided that I would like my students to do some work with a visual source. So I'm going to create an activity for them to do online. I'm going to call this, how can a portrait, even going to spell portrait right, express power? So I have a title. I'm going to upload a picture from, actually I will drag that from my sources later. I won't upload a picture, but what you can do into that space here is just put something that will make it nice and recognizable in your files, but we can play around with that later. So I'm going to develop an activity called How Can a Portrait Express Power? And I'm going to write to my students, here you can practice what we were doing in lesson about studying sources carefully. So my students, and obviously you can write anything there, will know what they're doing. Now, it might be that you actually put something in that box so that when you go back to your relearning activities, you can remember what it was. You can put whatever you like there, whatever's helpful. You can then assign your eActivity a tag. It might be class 1, or it might be exam work, or it might be revision, something that means that you can find it for you later. At the moment, of course, I haven't got that problem. I've only got one e-learning activity. But eventually, if you've got lots and lots of activities, you're going to want to be able to find things quickly. Okay, let's start building my activity. Simply pick up a tile. I want to start with text and pop it here. Then click pen for edit, and I'm going to paste my title in here. What I'm going to say is something like, on the next screen, you will find a portrait of a European monarch. Annotate the portrait to show all the ways that power is displayed in the image. Okay, and then just in case I always put something like that, otherwise students can sit. Now at the moment you can see on the right over here, this is where the students will navigate. But when you are creating yourself, that will save automatically. I now go back to Builder. Just to show you that, if I click on Edit again, there it is, it's saved. If I wanted to delete it, then I would press this button, which I'm not going to do for now. Okay, so I've told them to go to the next screen. Their next screen will be the analyzing tool. It's going to edit. So this is what the analyzing tool looks like. My thumbnail, if I'd put one in, would be here. How can a portrait express power? So they cannot forget the question that's in front of them. And I'm going to select a source. This takes me immediately to my selected sources, and let's have a go for old Bonaparte. He would be marvellous. Go to the top and add it to the tool. Okay, and there he is, looking quite magnificent. Right, I'm just going to go back to the builder, because I'm just going to delete that, and I'm just going to do that again for a moment, because things happen so quickly online. So you go into the analyzing tool, click on edit, click on select a source. All the sources that you've saved in my sources come up. I want that one, so I give it a little dot, go back up to the top, add it to the tool, and bang, there he is. Now, I'm not going to add the annotations because I want my students to do that. But maybe I've got some students that are going to need a little bit of a helping hand. So I will stick one annotation on, hoping. Drag. Perhaps I won't right now. Annotation. No, can't quite do that one at the moment. I'll have to let Stephen kick on that bit or tell us what to do with that bit later. But what happens is that the students can then annotate all the images. So you would expect students, for example, if they're looking at power, wouldn't you, to pick out his laurel wreath. More able students may know that that is very much associated with Roman emperors. We've got what looks to me like an eagle up here. Look at those clothes and the chain of office and the scepter and the orb, all sorts of things. This screams power. It's an interesting combination, I always think, this picture, between the robes looking like a king and then the full frontal look that starts to look much more like a Charlemagne. Quite extraordinary. Okay, so we've set that up as a how can it express power. Remembering that our students, if I just go back into that again, will be moving on this button. But we're going to build something, so I now want to go another text explanation, and I will put here thinking about the task, and here I could type something such as, now you have annotated the portrait, select 3 annotations that you wish to write about. Now go to the next screen. Okay, so I go back to my builder, and then this time I want them to do some writing. So if I go into edit, I will put my title question here, and I'm going to say write a paragraph about how a portrait can express power using the 3 examples from the portrait of Napoleon that you have chosen. And then they can write their paragraphs here, and at some point later I can go in and have a look at them and see what they have done. So if I go back to the builder, hopefully you can see what's happening here, that you can create as simple or as complex an activity as you wish. But the point is that you can build up a whole sequence, so a whole, if you like, lesson activity or a whole homework activity, or you can keep it very short, very straightforward, and then just send students to do it in a lesson. I'll just show you this particular tile at the moment, because this is one that I'm not actually going to develop today, but this one you could add text, put some explanation in, and then here you could embed a URL from a website or a video from YouTube. So if I go back, it might be that actually I thought, no, what I'd like to do is move the tile up here, because having analysed, I'd like them to now do a little bit of reading or to watch a short film clip about Napoleon, and then that will make their paragraph writing more robust. Okay, hopefully you're seeing the idea there. So what I will now do, I hope, is go back to my Historiana, and you can see that one of my e-learning activities is already saved here. So that was an example based on analysing visual sources. Let's have a look at perhaps a different use of the tool. That analysing visual sources tool, I'm sure history teachers amongst us, you can think of many fabulous uses for getting students to look in detail at things and to annotate, to really show that they've looked at political cartoons or portraits, or perhaps in their annotations you could be asking them to put the detailed historical context. But let's try a different activity. Let's go to the e-activity builder. I am going to actually just save that. It's saved. I'm going to create a whole new one. Right. Hopefully, I might have just obliterated my practice one, but that doesn't matter for now. I'll take all of that out. So this time I'm thinking, I would like my students to have a think about women in World War I. Let's think of a question. What work did European women do in World War I? Again, I could write for use with class 3, if it's a note to myself there. Start with my text as usual. Notice you can copy paste things, which is great for saving you time. I'm going to put the title in because I know it's at the top, but if your students are like mine, sometimes when they're just starting something off, they don't see things very well. Bless them. Okay, so what I want them to do here is I'm going to say on the next screen, you will find images of women at work in World War I from various parts of Europe. And I want them to sort them into 2 categories. 1, work that was still fulfilling the traditional role of women in 1914 to 1918, and 2, work that was beyond the traditional role of women at the time. Now go to the next screen. Okay, so that's setting them up. Whoops, I seem to have gone right back. Back to the builder is where I want to go. Oh, no, it's not liking that for some reason. Okay. quite sure why I have just leapt out of the builder. Let's go back into this, not worry. How strange. I just seem to have lost my e-activity builder. Contents there. Teaching and learning's there. Select sources. Okay, give me a moment, folks. I'm hoping that Stephen will have some idea as to what's just happened there. Click on it again.
I'm sorry, can you explain what the issue is?
Well, can you see my mouse moving?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm clicking on e-activity builder, I'm suddenly getting nothing.
Can you do a refresh?
Excellent. Phew. It's always one of those online glitches. You think, oh my goodness, there we are. We're back in the game again. So just to remind us, we've got this text box here. Back to the builder. This time I'm going to choose the sorting tool. Sounding a little bit like Harry Potter, isn't it, with its sorting hat? But if I go into the sorting tool, you'll see again my thumbnail would be up here. My what work did European women do in World War I is at the top, so children can't forget what they're doing. And I can choose various backgrounds. Because I've asked them to put this into two categories, I'm going to go for this background, because then students could quite clearly put one group of pictures here and one group of pictures here. And now I'm going to add the sources that I want them to work with. Let's have women as nurses, struggle for political emancipation, women in factories, women propaganda, women Red Cross, women in intelligence. Let's have some German propaganda, emancipation, factories, frontline soldiers. That'll do, that's lovely. And there they go. They all pop up on the tool. Or they should do, some of them are popped off the side, but you get the general idea. Okay, so now what students will be able to do is decide to move things to the, actually what I will just do to improve my tool myself is I'll go back to the builder, and I've decided I want to make an amendment. Put these on the left hand side and put these on the right hand side, and you can see how easy that is to do. So if I go back again, go into my sorting tool, then hopefully they'll understand that if they have a look at it larger, look at that, it may be propaganda, but that's a very stereotypical role of women, so that's going to stay on the left hand side. Whereas these women here, who are struggling for political emancipation and working as surgeons in a hospital, that one's going to go over there, and so on and so forth. So that's, you could imagine the students doing it. If you suddenly wanted, as you were planning, to change your background, that's no problem. Various background options here. Blank canvas, I think just useful for all sorts of things. Useful for categories, that one. This one may be useful for having something that you position in the center and then talk about different relationship. This one could be used for putting things in chronological order. This one is very much obviously similar to the one I was using, just up and down. You could again use that for a line of time. This one, you could position one image in here, and then again you could have images that were very directly related and images that were only context related here. Very similar insofar as that one's a more complex version. This one, again, you could have, you could type and set in images yourself some plus, minus, and dates across the bottom so that they could do what we would call a living graph. You see what I mean by you're going to need to have a play with this for yourself. Again, you might have some things that were to do with politics and social, some things that were to do with economics, some things to do with religion, so things could be moved around like that. three-way, same idea. So all sorts of backgrounds that can be added in with that tool. So again, just go back to our basic strategy, go back to my builder, and I could keep adding on. I might want to then give them another text. I might want to give them a question. I might actually want to analyze something. I might want to prioritize something, and so on and so on and so forth. It could continue. Okay, so I've saved my activity and I'm going to go for a new one again. Just take the bits out of there. I'm hoping by doing this several times you're beginning to see get the gist. Let's just do one more. Let's have a look at prioritizing. So let's imagine a question about what was the most significant. Oh, my spelling really should improve on a Monday. Significant impact on people, the history of medicine. Now, the history of medicine is actually quite a popular topic in the part of the world I come from. And so I would put GCSE class in my box here. And I might have my text again. And then this time I'm going to say revising World War I. And what should we say for a short time? On the next screen, you will find 3 images. You can resize them to show which had the most significant, sorry about that, significant impact on the history of medicine. Okay, you will need to look back to your class notes and discuss this with a colleague, with a friend. That's probably a bit more kid language, isn't it? With a friend. Be prepared to justify your choice with evidence in 10 minutes time. Now go, and so on and so forth, to the next screen. Okay, this time, whoops, let's refresh it again. This time, I'm going to slot in prioritizing. Open it up, and I'm going to add 3 sources: the use of physiotherapy, reintegration to the work life, and the rise of plastic surgery. Click the pink button, go to the top, add to the tool, and I've got these lovely 3 sources here. Now, if I have forgotten or would like to see them more closely, I can have a little look. This is about physiotherapy. This is about things relating to the very physical injuries of World War I and the advances that were made in physical treatments. This is to do very much with rehabilitation therapy. This one is to do with the rise of plastic surgery, which you may know tragically during World War I had plenty to practice on and therefore made great leaps. Now, if after discussion and looking at their notes they decide that they want to go for this one as most important, then it becomes bigger. This one may be the second one, and this one may be shrinking down even further. But they can very clearly make their choices, and they can use that to then prepare their argument, and then they can actually get into a group of 4 and argue and debate as to which was the most significant. Now, that's a very simple way of showing you the prioritizing tool, but of course there are other ways that you could use it as well, very much more in class, and again you can have a think about it. But if I go back to my builder, then if I just go through that again, you can see we've got text. This tile, you can drop in as many times as you want or get rid of it if you've put too many in. And this is where you basically give instructions. The question is where they write to you. So the yellow one is where students can write on it when it's actually working. This is for linking to outside web sources. And the various tools that we have so far, as Stephen's been saying, we've got a sorting tool, a prioritizing tool, and an analyzing tool. I'm hugely looking forward to a connecting tool, I have to say. But actually what I'm going to do now is get Stephen to take back over the screen, because I know lots of people have got lots of questions, and I'm sure he's going to want to speak some more, and I can always come back later if you want any of that outlining, or you want me to do another demo or something. But I think that's demoed 3 different ways. Hopefully you've got the idea now, and I can see lots of questions are coming up in the chat box. So I'm going to hand back the screen to Stephen so that he can pick up with some thoughts. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen, for this great presentation. I think what you really showed is that it's like fairly straightforward, actually, to create activities as long as you have good ideas. And I'm very happy that you have great ideas. And really focused on the historical thinking. In the meantime, I've been like looking at the chat, and I think most questions I have been able to answer, but there's always, it's better to show things. So that's what I will do. I will like log in with an existing account so that I also have, it's actually my testing account. So not all the materials like will be like relevant. Sometimes you just try to test them. Also, I explain them like a manager, so I'm not teaching history myself. So a lot of questions were about, okay, where can I find some of the example e-learning activities? So we have created some exemplar e-learning activities. If you go to the teaching and learning section, you can search for them. At the moment, we have a limited amount, but of course, you can imagine that in the future, things will get bigger. When there's something that you like, well, you can basically view as a student, and then you just see exactly what a student sees. So that also means that, like, welcome to this activity, then you're being asked to put in your email as a student. I think that would also be, that was when we presented this before, was a concern of some teachers who said, okay, we can never ask students for our email. Our web developers like it because it's unique, and names can be common, they can be shared. So then it would be good, perhaps you can put in the chat whether it's an issue for you, yes or not. Can you ask your students for emails? When you decide that you like the activity, you can simply put the plus sign, and then you add it to My Historiana. So when you're at My Historiana, you can see all these learning activities, and now you can actually see that you own this learning activity. So you can delete it, of course, but you can also share it with your students. So if you click here on share, then you can choose, do you want to share it with your students or do you want to share it with others? The difference is that if you share it with students, the answers for the question tool are also saved. The share with others, that is something I explained that in the chat that we're now working on. The idea is that you then have like a link that everybody can view. So there will be a shareable link that is created. Once it's there, you click on copy link, and then you can share that with the others. If it works with your students, it's a little bit more complex, because we can imagine that you have the same learning activity that once you've created it, you want to use it multiple times. So you can say, okay, now we're in 2018, so I want to share this just with our students now, because I don't want to mix it up with the answers from the last year. And then you can say, okay, this is like the class that I'm now teaching. So you can select that. And then you have a shareable link. And again, it just copies to the clipboard, your clipboard, and then you share that with the students. So if you want to find back your shareable links, you can always go to My Shares. And here you can see that I just shared one with others, but also with students. And here you can copy the link again. So later, if you have more activities, it will be very easy to just find back the shares that are specific for your class. So yeah, we believe that this is like a practical way. If you like to also like have a clean place, you can delete the shares if you're sure you don't need them anymore. Then there was one question about sources. Of course, you need sources. That's also why I started by explaining how you can add sources. So the main place to do that is the source collections that we already have. So you can just find the source collections. Oh, if we go back, sorry, we can go here, for example, to a source collection about Charles Darwin. Also, these source collections are all from Europeana. And then you can just add the sources to your own Historiana section. We also know that you are already used to work with a lot of sources, so and that you want to use them as well. You always need to first add them to the My Sources section, but there is actually also a possibility to upload your own sources. So at the moment, we only work with images. We're working for ideas to like also develop tools for text, to work with video. At the moment, we're not supporting that. But of course, when you talk about history, then you need to work with those sources as well. So this is just, we can, here, if you add a source, you can just upload it, and then you can find your own sources in the My Sources section, and then you can work with those. Of course, then you need to edit the information. So sources that are already source collections from provided by EUROCLIO, or that you can find via Europeana, then then the information is already there. And we hope that in the future, more and more you will actually find the sources already on Historiana. But in the meantime, or if always there will be a case that you just have that one source that you want to upload. So in those cases, please do take care that you have the copyright, that things are in the public domain, especially if you share them, because that's your responsibility. Another a way to search sources is actually via Europeana directly. Here we have some selected partners that we know have good materials, such as the Rijksmuseum. Here you can actually also search for sources. So now we're actually searching directly the collections from the Rijksmuseum. And here you can see that first you click on the info button, then view best image, and then you can add it to My Historiana. So you can imagine that through Europeana we can access a lot of archives, a lot of libraries, so there will be more sources available, and we are working to make that like a good user experience. But now I just want to show that that is also possible. I don't know if there are any questions left. Probably there are. I can see there are things in the chat. So perhaps I'll is it possible to embed the activity inside a platform or virtual class? At the moment, we only have shareable links, but it's very good to know that these are wishes, because then we put them on the development list. I mean, the program so far is supported by our own organization, EUROCLIO, which is the European Association of History Educators, and we always put some of our own funding in this. So in the way, it's the history teachers funding this themselves. And then every year we will have a look to see, okay, what are the new requirements? What can we do? So, for example, now, and then we have to balance, and that's always a conversation with the history teachers community. Are we now going for a tool that supports video, or are we going to make sure that you can embed an activity inside of another platform? But it's really good to know like that these are real wishes. So if you have more of these wishes, please put them in the chat. Is there an easy to use method for vision impairment? At the moment, actually, I think not. But that will be, if you have good ideas on like how such a tool would look like. We also have a project specifically focused on inclusion, how to make history education and citizenship education more inclusive and accessible. So for EUROCLIO, it is definitely an area for concern. But then we would need to know, okay, how does it work? So how can we always look, okay, what works in the classroom situation, and what can we then replicate from that and use for an online experience? So if you have ideas, please share them. Can you add your own materials? Yes, you can. You can already now add, like I did with the example from Azure, so you can upload images as soon as you have an account. And also if you then go to the eLearning, the activity builder, you can see how Helen created an e-learning activity. Actually, she created 3 e-learning activities. That's also very important that it's easy to use and that you can do it quick, because we know as history teachers, they're always pressed for time. So if you have those, then you can also share them. At the moment, only via the shareable link, but we are exploring, and actually we just got funding to also create partner pages. So that would be then a professional account if you also publish materials. So you think colleagues in other subjects would like to know about this too? Art, geography. That's, yeah, I think Helen, you make a very fair point. It would be interesting to see. I mean, we created for our own community, which is mainly history and civic educators. But of course, if it can be used for other purposes, then that is very welcome. So how's the performance on mobile devices, tablets? At the moment, yeah, on a mobile phone, if you wouldn't do an activity like this analysis of visual sources, I don't think it would work very well. It's made that you can look at things like in great detail. So if you would add a source here, I don't imagine that a student would work for these tools, like specifically, because it's just too small. But we can imagine that there is that we can have additional building blocks as well, specifically made for mobile phones. If you're, for example, now something that you can really do only with mobile phones is augmented reality. So if we would do something with that, then yeah, we can do things with mobile phones. So I guess it depends really what the tool would be and what the use case is. Because I know that that's a feedback that, because we test a lot in also real scenarios with history teachers who are being trained to become a history teacher with the teacher training colleges. And there we also get the feedback that if everybody is working online with computers, that's not a scenario that is very common. So at the moment, we envisage that most of you would create the activity online, and then you would introduce it during your lesson. Probably the students would do the activity as homework, and then you discuss in the plenary where you can share things. If you want to have interactive methods together with students, I do understand that mobile phones are the best, yeah, the best tool, because you have internet, you can roam it, and everybody has their device. So, well, thank you very much for sharing all these things. I don't know, Helen, if there's anything that you would like to add more?
No, I don't think so, unless anybody has anything they particularly want from me. I think it's hopefully clear that this is a really interesting, useful tool for history teachers, and go away and have a good play with it. And I would say if there is the odd glitch, don't panic. It is very much in the new stages and things are being tweaked all the time. Refresh button seems to be the thing to reach for. Speaking as a history teacher rather than a trainer at this point. And if that doesn't work and you do find a glitch or something, then please do mail Stephen and let him know, because the people that are putting this together are really keen to make it work absolutely brilliantly. And you are some of the first people to be taking this out and using it in classrooms, which is really exciting. So thank you for your attention and good luck with it. Look forward to seeing what you produce.
Yes, thank you very much for your kind words. And if you have any afterthoughts, something that you would like to share with us, please do email me. I put my email in the chat. So this is very much a first version. We've been working on it for a while, but this is now really the first time that everything is live. So if things are not working, yeah, please share it with me and explain what platform you've used, and we will do what my commitment is, that I will work together with EUROCLIO and Europeana and all the wonderful educators from our community to deliver a better project every year. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope to see you online soon, and good luck with the use.
And thanks again from my side, from the eTwinning side. Thank you for your really nice presentation, and the tutorial has been a pleasure. And if any of you still have any comments, you can reach us. You can reach Stephen and Helen about any of the questions or issues that you may have. And from the eTwinning side again, you will receive certificates for this online seminar, and I will send those out tomorrow. So you should be having them shortly. So in case there's anything else, I would like to wish you a very nice evening, and thank you so much for joining us.